This is Inspirational Women, a weekly series shining the spotlight on female trailblazers making a true difference in our community. Once again, here is Kate Daniels.
Dr. Julie Gatza is a health educator, considered to be one of the nation's top chiropractic physicians, and who has joined us a number of times in the past. Each time we learn something new about improving our physical health and well-being. This time, Dr. Julie brings us the new lesson, Poop 101, to raise our IQ on the subject and to improve our digestive health. Dr. Julie Gatza, it is so great to connect with you once again.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back on your show.
You know, I don't know why you keep amazing me, but you do, because, you do this great work around our health and wanting to really make us healthier. And then along comes a different angle on this, something we don't necessarily want to say out loud, or we say it with our puppies and we say it with little kids, like, where you go poop. But there we are. We're doing Poop 101 today.
Good. It deserves it.
Oh, well, here you are. You've got a long list of things about this that has to do so much about our good health. And that's why I thought, let's get really clear about this and find out the basics, what we need to look for and what we need to do to be really the healthy people we can be.
Great. I'd love to.
Yes. Okay. So there are some basics about this, and we probably do pay attention when we go to the bathroom and have a bowel movement, but maybe we don't. So you're saying we need to pay attention.
That's right. And, you're right. It's become a delicate subject. It's something that's, socially unacceptable unless you're goofing around. And the fact is, in the 50s, all the kids in their health class used to be told to take a look at their bowel movements and notice what it looked like. And they had a chart on, healthier and unhealthy bowel movements, and you can actually judge your health that way. So, to get into the details, it should, be well formed. It should have a normal brown color. It shouldn't be anything too small, too loose, too hard, too big. And all these things can mean, different aspects to maybe you're dehydrated, maybe you ate beets, maybe you have blood in your stool, maybe, your intestine is so inflamed that you no longer have a normal sized bowel movement. So now they're smaller, and that means the inside of your intestine is inflamed, which is never good for digestion and health and absorption. So, once you start to take a look and go, oh, okay, well, I did eat beets yesterday and it looks red, instead of freaking out, there's all these little things that people should be quite aware of, and it will be a very good signal for how is your digestive health along with other symptoms.
Because, of course, the digestion, our gut, is really very critical to being a healthy individual.
Well, I think it's the most important aspect to the body. Everyone thinks it's the heart, but the heart won't beat without the nutrition that you get from eating your food and taking the supplements that you take. So you must have good absorption to have a beating heart. You won't have an immune system working properly if your gut is upset. You can't have good skin. You can't have good lungs. So it starts completely from digestion. And, our country has been, fooled into thinking over the years that it's okay to have fast foods and, feed your kids a lot of that, quick stuff and Lunchables and snack packs and just weird food that is no longer good food. I mean, it's not been good food. So, this is a dial it back. Let's take a look. Let's make some things at home. Let's give some basic information, because gut health is everything for future health.
Right. And to dispel those sorts of crazy ideas like you don't talk about this, it's important, because that really is where we're going to find out the facts, the truth.
Yeah. It's true. And, it's just become, with all the other crazy things that everyone is aware of, this is something that, it's natural, it's normal. And I always say to my patients, and when I talk on the radio, if you don't have to think about your digestive system at all in the day, except to just take a look on your bowel movement whenever you have that, then you probably have great digestive health. But if you're bloated and gassy and indigestion and burping and acid reflux and constipation and diarrhea, none of those are normal. They're very common. and they're made to be just no big deal, take something for them. But it's very uncommon to have, unnormal to have this, and very common to have any of those symptoms.
Yes. And so we don't want to be taking all those antacids or whatever kind of medication to just camouflage it when this condition is just going to keep perpetuating unless we get back to the source of it.
That's right. And I've met a lot of patients in their 40s and 50s whom, have had some gut problem their whole life. And, when I really dial it back with them, they're like, oh no, I've been constipated from when I was a little kid. I'm like, oh my goodness. And no one tried to fix this with you other than just, take something for it rather than getting to the source of why is it? Because it's not just your family or your body. It means something's not working efficiently. And thus you need to find out why.
Right. So we know that there are different shapes to the stool. So we need to pay attention to what that is and what should be normal.
Normal is just a normally formed log-like bowel movement. It shouldn't be little rabbit pellets. It shouldn't be long and, snake-like from, very slender. It shouldn't be loose. It shouldn't be too big. And it should just be a normal size, a medium colored bowel movement. That's normal. It should basically mimic the waste coming out of your intestine. And the size of it is usually how big your intestine is.
Right. And so I think you mentioned someone being constipated. That's going to mean that you probably haven't had a bowel movement in a day, maybe multiple days. And so then I guess when it happens, it could be all the wrong things.
And it could be much bigger than it needs to be. It has no sort of liquid to it. It's painful to remove from the body. People have to go to sometimes very big extremes just to get it going. And, if you've let it go more than a day, you better be doing something the second day to ensure that you are having a bowel movement, because having it in your body simply means you're reabsorbing the toxins that should be leaving the system. It doesn't just sit there. There are toxins that go back into your bloodstream, and now you're tired and you're fatigued and your joints ache and you don't feel good and your immune system isn't working. And it's often because you're constipated and not getting rid of the waste.
I don't think we ever really have that mentioned, that you have a ruling that you should have at least one bowel movement a day, but I don't know that anyone's ever heard that if it goes into a second day, that there's toxins that are going back into the body.
That's right. It's exactly right. And I've heard of patients of mine who've come in and it's 5, 6, 8 days. I'm like, oh, how do you even eat? How do you possibly eat if you can't eliminate? So
that would be difficult, wouldn't it? I mean,
I think it's horrible.
Yeah.
And, I've heard it so many times that they start to think it's normal. They're like, yeah, I have a bowel movement every 3, 4 days. I'm like, oh my goodness, let's talk. Let's get down to the brass tacks and figure this out.
Because there are I don't even know, there are some sort of concoctions you can get at a pharmacy to take to go to the bathroom, but that's not to have a bowel movement, rather. And
that's right.
Right. But that's not what you want to depend on. That's not healthy for the body either.
Yeah, I mean, in a system of emergency, okay, fine, nice to have those solutions right then and there. But if it continues, then you need to get to the source of why that is, and maybe go to the extreme of natural solutions. And there are so many natural solutions to constipation, from olive oil to Epsom salts to prune juice and pineapple juice, and baking soda. There's just so many things. You can get on the internet and find 10 of them, and any one of them will work if you're persistent.
Right. And stop eating the stuff that's bad, like the junk food.
That's right. And, in general, our bodies aren't producing the amount of digestive enzymes that they should be producing. And I do believe it's our food source and, the Roundup that's used on all the types of foods. And we're just not as healthy as a society with our food sources that we used to be. So consequently, we aren't making as many enzymes to break down the food that we are eating to get the nutrition from it. We're supposed to be secreting enzymes from our pancreas to break down the proteins and the fats and the carbohydrates and utilize these. So it's basically like a little sous chef cutting up all your food and extracting the nutrition and throwing it into the bloodstream and saying, Yahoo, this is exactly why we eat. So most of us aren't producing enough enzymes, so we are getting bloated and gassy and burpy, and we can't handle red meat, and things aren't good for you, and you start to have stomach aches and all these little symptoms. And it's like, well, one, what are you eating? And two, maybe you need some help in the digestive enzyme area.
Right. And well, let's take a moment and talk about what you recommend in terms of these digestive enzymes.
Well, I've been using one for years, and it's a high quality digestive enzyme, and it's a vegan formula. It's called Absorbade, and it basically does the trick. If you have, the inability to break down your food, or you can't eat red meat, you take the Absorbade. If you're a healthy person and you want to get more nutrition from your diet, take Absorbade every time you eat. If you're constipated, diarrhea, acid reflux, flatulence, whatever it may be that's digestively related, you take Absorbade and you'll get more nutrients per your meal. This means you'll have more energy. Your skin is better. Your hormonal system will be working better because you're breaking down your fats. It can mean that you're sleeping better. Your legs aren't as restless. You don't have acid reflux. I've had patients take it 4 hours after they've eaten with severe acid reflux, and they're like, what? I can't believe this worked. I mean, it was 4 hours ago and I'm experiencing this. And I'm like, well, you could take an over the counter, or you could take something that mimics fruits and vegetables from this, from our earth that, a lot of these ethnicities in our country came with, and, said, oh, the Germans ate the sauerkraut. Not just because they like sauerkraut, it actually aids in breaking down their food. And there's all sorts of different ethnicities that brought along their fermented foods so that they could get their benefits from the meals as well.
Right. Because there's something about that fermented process that really does a natural job in our gut.
That's right. I mean, we have our coleslaw and our pickles and, anything that's, pickled like that, vinegary type based things, in America, those are, what came along with our diet. And, if you think about, eating, let's say, twice a day and, way back when, it was probably a lot of food, a lot of laboring, and they needed to get the most out of that meal so that they could withstand, working a full day and coming home and having dinner and then, feeling satisfied. So we have our fermentation that went along with it. It wasn't just for taste.
Right, exactly. So this is good. A digestive enzyme is really going to take care of, the multitude of ails that we have here that's affecting our good health. So we talked about the constipation. What is it that's happening in the body if we have a loose or watery stool?
That simply means that one, whatever it is that you're eating isn't getting broken down properly as well. So it's kind of going through the digestive system way too fast, chunks as well. And thus you're taking minerals and you're taking water and you're getting yourself dehydrated from that as well. So, and it does a number on the digestive system when you can't absorb. So now you can't repair the inside of the intestine. So it's a vicious cycle from the point of once digestive system problems start, and then you start seeking other solutions rather than figuring it out, it continues to be the same problem in different ways that the symptoms will show up. So it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. So along with that, and I think having too much information. Okay. Being aware of there being loose stool, and it can be weird colors. Does that indicate the foods that one's eaten, or is it something that happens in the body as it breaks down?
It's definitely both. So let's say somebody's having a gallbladder problem where they can't digest their fats. They're going to have a more yellow colored stool that doesn't have much color to it because they can't get those fats in. So they're seeing a lot of the bilirubin and things in there that, it should be a darker stool. If you do see red in your stool, I mean, everyone first, is thinking, okay, am I bleeding? So you'd have to rule that out, because if you are, then it's usually a hemorrhoid, and or you've eaten beets, which will do the same thing. A dark tarry stool can also mean upper GI bleeding. that's, quite concerning, or it could mean that you drank too much. And, sometimes wine and alcohol will do the same thing to it. So, you can also look it up and, find out if you can't remember what I've talked about. And, there is whole stool charts so people can actually say, okay, this is what normal is. And, that's what I'm going for. So you can just increase your fiber. And when I say that, I mean, steamed green vegetables. I don't just mean go eat salads. Salads are kind of tough on a digestive system that's not working so great. So increase your fiber from cooked and steamed squash and broccoli and asparagus and cauliflower, and make it cooked so that you give your body a little better chance to break it down and it doesn't irritate the intestine.
For all these years that we've had conversations, and I'm a big fan of salads, this is the first time I'm really connecting, like, okay, we don't necessarily want to be eating exclusively salads, getting our vegetables that way. That steamed, cooked vegetables are probably a good idea to mix in at times.
They are, and more than the salads, and only from the point of, I only give advice if I see it works. And so
Mm.
for the 34 years I've been practicing, I've seen that people who ate salads are generally having a harder time. Now, if they're perfect digestion and super healthy and everything's fine, go ahead, eat it. But, I hear a lot of women trying to lose weight eating salads, men trying to lose weight eating salads. And I'm like, are you really eating salads? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, you're starving. You
Mm.
aren't getting the nutrition from the salad that you should be getting. So your body is in a constant state of starving for nutrition. So the metabolism is going to slow down. It's not going to speed up. So when you start getting nutrients in and taking, the digestive enzymes that will aid, and taking, or cooking your vegetables just slightly. I don't mean kill them, but just
Mm.
slightly break down the cell wall. This is where the nutrients are easier absorbed. This is where, the body starts to just not have to work so hard, and you don't have an intestine that's inflamed on the inside.
Right. So if we are having some digestive problems, if we're experiencing any of these kinds of negative effects, should we steer away from? Well, I think steer away from salads. But what about certain meats? Should we not eat meat during that time?
I would say, knock off red meats for the next 2 weeks and stick with chicken, turkey, all the fish that you want, and the steamed vegetables. If you're, trying to lose weight, then don't eat a bunch of rice. If you, are thin and you're doing fine, you can add some rice to that. But other than that, it's pretty much a recipe to help any digestive problem. Is do exactly what I said: fish, chicken, eggs, and steam cooked vegetables, and you're going to do great.
Right. And then, of course, a natural supplement would be to use the digestive enzymes regularly.
Yeah, because what it's doing is it's wringing the most nutrition that you can from your meal. So
Hmm.
it's not necessarily adding in nutrients like a multivitamin, it's getting the most bang for your buck. So I think a digestive enzyme like the absorbate is better than buying a multivitamin. And simply because you're, shopping for the food, you're buying the food, you're preparing the food, you're making sure your family likes the food, you're eating the food, you're cleaning up after it. And all that effort, you should be getting nutrition from that meal.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. That's logical, makes good sense. So,
Good.
so circling back then to the beginning of our subject today, looking at our bowel movements, um, I think there's one point as to duration. Is that a factor? Is that something we have to pay attention to?
You mean going once a day?
Actually, yes, that as well as how long one sits on the toilet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sort of depends on, maybe it's their place to just get away from everything. So I've known a few people in my life that make their camp out in there because they need to be alone.
Yeah.
So, but in general, it shouldn't be difficult. If you're struggling, then you're probably missing some nutrients. You're probably eating incorrectly. It should just be a daily activity that shouldn't be stressful. And it should happen generally around the same time of the day if everything's working properly. And first start yourself with, are you drinking enough water? I'm not talking carbonated or coffee or tea or any of that. Are you drinking enough water? Some of this just begins from the fact that most people are dehydrated. And secondary, then take a look at the, type of diet that you're eating. And, you can always improve, I'm sure. And, you can't go wrong with taking a good digestive enzyme because it's going to help in, all levels of how you get nutrients in. I keep a bowl of it on my counter because every time I eat, I just grab a couple, and it's just simple. I put a little pack in my purse, and also simple. So I'm a bit lazy myself. So I want to be able to have the easiest solution when I'm out and about, which is break down my food and not, feel uncomfortable when I'm visiting somebody or eating lunch somewhere.
Right. Yes. So the you mentioned the water. Water, I mean, I know we need to really have enough water in our systems, but some people compensate and say, "Oh, I've drunk this juice or I had my tea or I had my coffee." But you're saying no, we need to have water, and that affects digestion, the water itself.
Absolutely. And so what it does is it simply is what cells need. And once the cells get that, and when you're drinking things like coffee, tea, pop, carbonation, you are changing how you absorb. Funny enough. And so when people drink coffee, tea, pop, and carbonation, I find that they're minerally deficient. They spasm easily. They have restless legs at night. Their neck and their trapezius, their shoulders are always tight. Nothing relaxes it. And it's because those are very minerally dependent muscles. And those people that drink that, they're missing minerals. So knock out the thing that's changing how your digestive system will absorb, add more water, and lo and behold, you're going to see that the body works better.
Right. Okay. That makes it. It really is so simple, isn't it?
It's really simple. The thing about it is it's been made so complicated. There's been so many specialists in so many areas that no one's really looking at the full system. It's all piecemealed away, and we're not being educated, and we're being thrown all sorts of weird solutions via commercials and money making companies. And the very basic data should be taught in first grade, third grade, fifth grade, and on up every other year, just so that this is, understood by children. Because I've talked to so many kids that have had digestive problems, and I give them the very basic, and they're actually better at it than their parents once they understand.
Right. Because you can keep it so simple, knowing what to have, when to have it, and I think the big thing here is, as you mentioned, in terms of having good nutrition, is to avoid all the junk food, because it's basically just a lot of chemicals thrown together.
That's right. And it's going to fill a space for you, but it's also going to not give you nutrients. I call it unfood. And it's called unfood because it takes minerals, it takes protein, it takes vitamins, it takes all these things from your body rather than adding. So a piece of fish is food. A box of French fries, unfood. It gives you less nutrients than it actually takes. So you're going into a negative when you're eating those fast foods. You might feel good, but the fact is, you're not going to feel good within an hour, and you're going to want more of it within 2 hours because it's not real food, and it's going to just make you feel full, but it doesn't satisfy you.
Right. So here we are at summertime, and it's a good reminder to have, because sometimes we think, oh, we need to go on this picnic and we take all these snacks. Well, consider what those snacks are, and having maybe not the raw vegetables, but you could, or some lightly steamed vegetables can survive well to go on a
I
picnic.
mean, on a picnic, have the raw vegetables. It's the easiest thing to do. Make some fresh coleslaw. Cook up some
Ah,
chicken and have it cold. Do whatever you'd like. Just enjoy it, but do it in a healthy way. And, when you're not on a picnic, cook 2 more meals a week healthier than you have been. And you're going to start to see that it's not so hard to cook healthy. It's actually cheaper to eat healthier when you're cooking at home. I mean, I can take a chicken and stretch that chicken, for 2 or 3 more meals as compared to buying something from the fast food place that's just about as much as a chicken.
or more. Exactly. So great thing to think about in terms of picnics. And the other thing that I'm recalling from past conversations and thinking about, being on picnics or at barbecues and such, is planning our meal in stages, because that helps with our digestion as well. And I think part of it is beginning with the protein part, with the meat, right?
Yeah, it's correct. Because protein is the most important food source that we want to be eating. It's also the most complicated to break down. So we want our enzymes working to break down the protein. So when you put it in first with nothing else on a meal that you can do that, what occurs is the signals go down to your digestive system when you're chewing, and it says, hey, this is protein. So your body gets ready to secrete protein enzymes, protein breaking down enzymes. So you put that in your belly and let it do its job, and don't rush to the next level, but the next, portion of the meal should be a vegetable. And you eat your vegetables. Same thing, sends down signals that said, hey, this is vegetables. We need to break that down the cell wall. So it does that. If you're going to eat the carbs, macaroni, potato salad, pasta, okay, do that third. You're going to be fuller than you would if you started with that. And so the protein, the vegetables, the carbohydrates come next. And, any meal you have a choice to be able to do that, slow it down, give your body the ability to digest. The biggest reason for eating is to get the nutrition in. I know everyone thinks it's about the taste and the experience, but, we are truly eating so that we can actually continue to be healthy, fix our unhealthy bodies, and, feel good.
Yeah, and enjoy life.
That's right.
Right?
Yes. I love the Europeans that, eat their meal. They make it an event. They go for a walk afterwards. It's just so sane. And, we've just been programmed here to just rush through everything, that even a meal is on the fly and a protein bar for your kids going to soccer. And I mean, it's just a disservice that's been pushed so hard that it's okay.
So follow these simple guidelines, and really it is simple, including adding the digestive enzymes here, and then we can eliminate all those things like gassiness and burping and flatulence, and we'll have good bowel movements.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. And if you don't, then work towards it, because it needs to be corrected. It's not just something that runs in your family or it's genetic. It may be familial, but it's correctable.
Yes.
If anyone's interested in finding out about that Absorbaid, they can get onto the website, which is naturesources.com. They have some ability to get some free samples off the website. And if you want to call the 1-800 number, you use the code radio, you can get some free samples or 20% off your first order. And that's 1-800-827-7656.
Perfect. Yes. I'm glad that you included that. That's really helpful and a great way to get going if we haven't used the digestive enzymes before. Well, as always, Dr. Julie, you just give us so much great and direct information that really is directed to having and living a good life. So I just so appreciate you and all the good information that you're willing to bring to us on a regular basis.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Kate. I totally appreciate being on your show. And, I talk with patients one by one, and it's just so nice to know that I'm getting at least a bit of information out to others who may say, hey, that made some sense, and apply some of the things that we've just talked about.
Yes, of course that's the case. Yes, well, we'll keep on doing that part and keep learning and growing and really making this a great life. So I hope you have a wonderful summer, Dr. Julie, and thank you once again. Thank you for being here this morning to meet these wonderful guests who are passionate about their field in helping us be the best, the healthiest, highest functioning people we can be. Please check this station's website for the podcasts for more information about these guests, and please share the stories with your family and friends. I'm Kate Daniels, and if you'd like to connect with me, simply send me an email, katedaniels@hubbardradio.com, and be well.
Thank you for listening to Inspirational Women. Tune in every Sunday morning at this time to hear about those truly empowering the Northwest community, all for the greater good. Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women are a public service of Hubbard Radio Seattle.